Hey Canucks fans, welcome to the line change. Before we dive into our topic, I want to give a quick shout out and thank you to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of this amazing artwork you see on display behind me, and you guys can check them out yourselves at gassjackart.com, as well as on Instagram at gassjackart. I have a link to his website in the description down below. So let's go ahead and get into this video's topic. We're going to go over some notes from the Patrick Allvin, Jim Rutherford, and Adam Foote media availability that they had the other day. First time they met with the media to talk about the season, talk about training camp, amongst other things. I actually ended up watching this entire press conference. I thought it was quite interesting. I have to say, I really liked what I heard from Adam Foote. I'll admit I was a little skeptical about Foote, and mainly because of his lack of head coaching experience. Obviously, he had that at least NHL head coach experience. Obviously, he had a little bit of experience with the Kelowna Rockets, and it was not that great. Obviously, it ended up not working out, and it ended up, not being good. So I really enjoyed what Adam Foote had to say. I liked the way that he came across, with some of the things that he said. The way he's going to coach the team this year. We're going to go ahead and take a look at that, as well as what Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin said. They had some things to say in regards to this offseason, in particular Patrick Allvin, and of course their quest to find a 2C. So we're going to go over an article that has provided us with the notes by our friends over at Canucks Army, in particular Mr. Tyson Cole. So I want to start off by looking at how Jim Rutherford opened the media availability. He goes on to say, "Welcome to the start of the 2025-26 season. We're really looking forward to it. We'll say the obvious that we're happy that the book's been closed on last year. I feel very fortunate the way the coaching situation played itself out. After Talk decided he was going to move on, and Patrick and I looked at different people to become the next head coach of the Canucks. Adam Foote did a terrific job in his interview. We already knew him. We knew what he's capable of doing. And then from there, able to get the assistant coaches that we got. I'm really excited about it. I'm really impressed with his coaching staff." And then he goes on to say, talk about how he knows that Adam Foote doesn't have a whole lot of head coaching experience on an NHL bench. But then Jim Rutherford went on to compare Adam Foote with Rob Brind'Amour, basically saying he views him as taking the same pathway as Brind'Amour. Obviously, Jim Rutherford knew Rod Brind'Amour. He hired him to be the coach when he was in Carolina. Mentioned how he hired him after he retired, and I knew he was going to be a head coach. So Rutherford, when he hired Brind'Amour, said he knew he was going to be a head coach, and he basically says he feels the same way about Adam Foote. Goes on to say Adam is well prepared. He's had a very good offseason. I don't think our players could be more prepared for training camp in the start of this season with all the things that Adam and his coaching staff and that the players have bought into. So we are excited that the guys have done what they need to do to have a good start. Now we'll find out for real. That's why we have camp. That's why we play the game. So that was his opening remarks. And Tyson Cole goes on to say the big takeaway is, of course, was turning the page on last season. They basically said, last season is in the past. We don't want to talk about it anymore. It's in the rear view mirror. We're focused on this season and, getting a fresh start, basically. And then Adam Foote would jump in and he would say that that's what they're going to tackle from the jump, from the beginning, with the Canucks' new leadership group. Now, he went on to say, the leadership group is going to consist of Elias Pettersson, Quinn Hughes, obviously the captain, as well as Thatcher Demko. He went on and recapped, the four of them. Four. Sorry. The four of them meeting, right after Adam Foote was announced as the new head coach. Talked about how they met up in Detroit, where Quinn Hughes is living, as well as Thatcher Demko was there. And then the fact that, Elias Pettersson flew from Sweden to come to, Michigan and to have a, four-way meeting between the two. And he even went on to say that it happened quickly. He asked Petey he mentioned he was maybe a Saturday to come down on a Wednesday. And he basically praised Elias Pettersson, saying he stopped what he was doing. Pettersson was in the middle of his, off season, perhaps, enjoying some family time, back home in Sweden. And he basically dropped what he was doing and made that commitment, went out of his way to, fly from Sweden down to Michigan to meet up with Adam Foote, Quinn Hughes, and Thatcher Demko, which spoke volumes to Adam Foote. He said he met in the Detroit area. Demko lives there. He had a new baby, and Quinn Hughes is from there. It made sense to go out and get together and have a couple of days together. Talked about how they played some golf, and then he even joked about how he's owed some money, or both him and Demko are owed money by Quinn Hughes and Elias Pettersson. I thought that was quite funny. But yeah, he even went on to say, I call it working on our contract together of our leadership group, how we're going to carry ourselves as a group, as a team, and what we want to start throughout the summer and how we wanted to approach this season. Adam Foote would later go on to discuss, the systems that he would be bringing to the team and what the main focus would be, which would be on being adaptable and wanting to adapt. Obviously, Elias Pettersson has been the biggest talking point, for this offseason. Is he going to bounce back? Obviously everyone's talking about how, PD wants revenge. I do feel as though this season, that is basically, to use a little bit of a wrestling reference, due to me being a wrestling fan, the storyline for this season, I feel as though is, redemption, rebound, or in PD's case, revenge. That is the storyline for this season. That is like the word that keeps getting thrown around. So I believe, this year is all about, redemption, rebounding, redeeming, and in, as I said, PD's case, revenge. So he did, Rutherford admitted that he did not see much of PD during the summer, but mentioned he has only heard positive things. And then he also went on to say, I know he put the work in, and I think we also know he didn't a year ago. So he kind of, took a little shot at PD, basically saying, he put the work in this year, something he didn't do last year. Success comes with preparation, and I believe all of our players, especially PD, has worked very hard this summer. So now the tests start tomorrow, as in, today. That's why we have why we play the games, but I do believe he's committed to being the player that we all expect him to be. We're all hoping that starts right from game one, as are, all Canuck fans. Adam Foote would chime in a bit too, having obviously seen PD during the summer. He would go on to say, yeah, PD, like for me, coming over within 4 days, that commitment, having those conversations, open book, he really wants to continue to grow. Obviously, you see maturity happen throughout. The first test he did very well. So apparently PD had already done a test, said he did very well. It's a type of test that if he did the work in the summer compared to last year, he might not. He had to do the work to get the number, and it's a great start, which is obviously great to hear from Adam Foote. I'm looking forward to working with him. I think his teammates too, the leadership group, they're all pulling for each other and helping each other get through this and understand this process. And I think it's a good start for everyone to see that. So again, nothing but positive things coming from Adam Foote when it comes to Elias Pettersson. And then Adam Foote talked about Quinn Hughes, basically saying he's a young guy. He's going to continue to grow. We had a great conversation recently that he's happy, he's ready to play, ready to go. And he called me and said he's fired up and can't wait to get back and get on the ice. His head's clear. So very positive for me. He asked me, I want you to keep teaching your staff, teaching me how to win a Game 7. It's huge to hear that come from him, that he knows there's growth there and we all keep getting better. If you're lucky enough to play for 15 years, 20 years, you have that mindset. The great players have a mindset to be a sponge. And I think he's maturing into into that where he knows he can continue to grow. He's got great coaching around with Dean, so Huggy is in a good spot. I'm real happy with our last conversation. Now, they would then switch from defense to goaltenders. Alvin was actually asked just how confident he is heading into the training camp compared to last season, given the uncertainty surrounding Demko's health. And, this was before Kevin Lankinen even signed with the Canucks. And Patrick Alvin went on to say, in my opinion, Demko and Lankinen are the best goalie tandem in the league, which gives us a chance to win every night, and it gives the confidence to the group. We have the luxury in the condensed season, a lot of games and traveling, and all that for Adam to kind of manage his starter. So he basically says, it's going to be up to Adam Foote to manage, how many games Demko starts, how many games Lankinen starts. A lot of people are thinking it's going to be 50-50, or at least close to that. He even mentioned, Adam brought up a good point that I think Lankinen was the best goalie in shootouts over the last couple of years, and Demko was number 2. I think that just calms the whole team down. We're excited to see the camp and how it's going to play out. Patrick Alvin also spoke very highly of the goaltending pipeline, that they have in development. Obviously, the Canucks have a slew of goaltenders in the pipeline. You could even say that it's some of the best goaltending prospects they've had, in years or maybe even ever. He went on to say, I truly believe that with the addition of Medvedev this summer, our goalie pipeline is probably the strongest one in the NHL. To be able to add a goalie like Medvedev, and we all saw his game in Seattle, so he will get his taste here at camp. I think that Yuri Patera is great. We're very pleased to have him here. He got injured last year, didn't play many games. Koskinen coming in from Harvard, I think we're really strong in that position. And he's not wrong. And of course, there was the obvious question that you knew was coming. I mean, Jim Rutherford knew it was coming, and actually watching the press conference, you saw him kind of smirk a little bit when he was asked the question. And that, of course, pertained to the Canucks practice facility, as obviously during the summer, Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvin were spotted, touring different places, trying to find, a place for a practice facility. That's been the ongoing joke for the Canucks. A lot of people are saying, what's going to come first? Canucks win the Stanley Cup or get a practice facility. But Rutherford did go on to share that they are closer to getting a practice facility. I know it's a bit of a joke there because, the Canucks have been around for 50 years and they don't have a practice facility. And once the Calgary Flames practice facility is built, they'll be the only team without one. So, but Rutherford does go on to say, we do have a few legitimate options now. We are in conversation with those options. And if I say anything beyond that, you're going to laugh at me. We should be able to get this done at this point. Now, obviously, at the end of the season media availabilities, management said that acquiring second-line center would be expensive, but it would be even more expensive not to do so. We've mentioned that several times on this channel. And obviously, that soundbite has kind of stuck through. And obviously, in the end, the Canucks were not able to acquire a second-line center during the offseason. They came up short. And Patrick Alvin goes into detail as to, what happened and what those conversations were like with other general managers. He doesn't go into too much detail about it, but he does, give a response to, the fact that they weren't able to land one. And Patrick Alvin goes on to say, well, it's based on what's available. I think even going back a couple of years where we identify a guy like Hronek being somehow available to strengthen our decor, and we're able to execute a deal there. Same thing last year when we were identifying that our top 4 needed another left shot defenseman, and part of the leadership addressing it with Marcus Pettersson. I think we will continue to watch and see here. And again, since I get in and the support from Jim, we're not waiting. If anything comes up and makes our team better, I think we have enough assets in our organization we have draft capital if that's needed, and we'll see here how Adam wants to utilize his players and how the players will fit together during camp and early part of the preseason. And he finishes that off by saying, "We're definitely not waiting for the purpose of waiting. We were open for business." And that is the end of the article. So we'll leave a link to the article in the description. You guys can read it yourself. It also has a link to the actual media availability. If you haven't watched it yet, I highly recommend watching it. It was quite the good watch, and there are some funny exchanges, between the media and obviously Jim Rutherford, Patrick Allvin, and Adam Foote. In particular, obviously Jim Rutherford. I will say I wasn't too fond of Farhanology kind of, poking the bear and trying to stir the pot when it came to Quinn Hughes and obviously Jim Rutherford's comments towards the end of the season there, where, he basically put his foot in his mouth and did the whole, bring Quinn's brothers here type of thing. He tried to get into that a little bit with Jimmy, and, Jimmy wasn't having it. He wasn't going to get into that. He was trying to ask him about, Quinn's response when Quinn was asked about those comments. And Rutherford was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going there. I'm not going to fall into your trap." So I will admit that, I wasn't too fond of that. It's like you're just looking for a soundbite at this point. So I thought it was kind of, redundant that Farhan kind of went that route. Didn't like it, but that's just my opinion on it. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section down below. What did you guys think about the first media availability for Canucks management just before training camp? Obviously, training camp is technically today and as well as tomorrow. And then this weekend, the preseason starts. Let me know in the comment section down below just how excited you are for Canucks hockey to be back. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Canucks content throughout the season, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. Check us out on social media because we are everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. Feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. And if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcast. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow as well as rate and review us. It's, of course, greatly appreciated, and it really helps out the podcast. As always, let's go Canucks, and I'll see you guys in the next video.